Hello and welcome to Success and Wealth. I'm your host, Karen Kahn, and today I have the privilege of speaking with Greg Farrall, who is the president and CEO of Farrall Wealth. And over the next few minutes, Greg is going to share some financial insights with us so we can realize greater success and wealth. So thank you for being with us here today, Greg.
Very nice. Thank you.
So all of us want to be successful with our wealth. What are you seeing people do these days?
Well, we see in our practice with the high net worth individuals and families that we work with, we see a lot of mistakes that people make with their financial decisions and financial lives. First would be that they have no investment process or plan to be able to grow, create their wealth, and then ultimately protect and preserve their wealth. They have no protection policy or protection plan as well. To be able to pass things on then down the line, we see that they don't have a process to transfer the wealth to heirs as well. So, really the protection and the preservation and the growth of all those different things are so important. But with our individuals that we work with too, everyone's very charitable. They're very giving. So they want to give back and they want to pay forward. But they don't really have a process as to how to give to charities and maybe the right way or the best way to pass things on.
So how should people be dealing with each of these areas?
Well, we recommend that everyone take an assessment. Have an overall assessment of their entire financial goals, wills and dreams and wants. And then after that, they align themselves with advisors that are capable of being able to talk about the 5 previous things I mentioned. And if those advisors, for whatever reason, are not part of that team or don't work out to be that team, that the families are not afraid of being able to interchange those advisors and move things around to make sure that they ultimately achieve their goals.
So how does a person get started on this path?
Well, we recommend that you first and foremost have a discovery meeting. You make sure that you have a process that is in place. And if you don't have a process, or sometimes details they get missed, right? So with the discovery meeting, you want to be able to make sure that the family understands that everything is covered. And when you have those 5 different things that I talked about earlier, you want to be able to make sure that you're systematically going over every single thing so no details are lost. And with all that discovery meeting, you always make sure that you're talking about 7 different things that we always ask about. You always make sure that you're talking about the values of the client, the goals, overall, where they want to be, their relationships that they might have, their advisors that they currently have, their assets that they currently have, their process, and to understand what our process is, but also be comfortable with how we communicate with them throughout, but also their outside interest. I mean, their overall outside interest as a family is imperative to learn and define.
Right. So obviously you care about this. What has made you so passionate about this topic?
I do. My dad was a rock star, just an absolute rock star. So coming from a small town in Ohio, my dad had played football for Ohio State University, for the Ohio State University, for Coach Woody Hayes, he's an institution in the coaching ranks. And in Ohio, it's one thing to be a rock star and play there from any town in Ohio, but from a small town in Ohio, you really are a star. But he wasn't a star to us and our family because of that. He was a star because he was a healer, because he was an orthopedic surgeon. And we would go I just remember vividly as a kid, every Saturday morning we would go into the same diner and we'd walk in and we'd follow this rock star in. And basically the reason I say that is because everyone wanted to see him. Everyone knew him. And it was as if the lights went on and the red carpet was rolled out. As we walk in this small little place, the smell of bacon and the pancakes and friends and family are there. And the little kid would come up and say, thanks, Doc, for setting my arm. And, the mothers would say, my grandmother or my mother he's helped her with her hip. I mean, there's just one story after another, and this just went on and on and on. So the town loved him, and we loved him for that because he was a healer. Now, my mother loved him as well. And thank goodness she did, because as good as he was a healer and his Superman talents to be able to do what he did, he was a terrible businessman. So, and in a small town, sometimes you get paid however you get paid, and it would be cows or chickens or whatever it might be at times. So we always used to tease him about that. But he was failing as a businessman. Wanted to be a healer, but really poor businessman. So my mother said, we've got to fix this because chickens and cows do not pay bills. I'm going to go to a local university. It's a very small university in our town. She went and she studied tax law. She went and studied investments. She went and passionately found her thing and really built and made our home in a lot of different ways. So when I grew up, our kitchen table was filled full of legal pads that she'd filled out, that she'd basically tracked stocks that she was watching, put closing prices on it, just piles and piles, and research periodicals all over the family room, all over the dining room. She was just passionate about it. So what I learned from her was to be able to, my father had the ability to grow an estate, or grow wealth. My mother had an ability to be able to protect and preserve it. So while my father was the reason that I got in this business because he was a healer, and I help people every single day of my life, just like he does, he did. But my mother was the reason that I got into this business because I can help people every day of their lives financially.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah, it's fun.
So, what is the first step that you would recommend people take?
Well, the first thing I would say is everyone needs a second opinion. And with all the different fluctuations and anxiety in the markets today, you really need to be able to make sure that you are getting you're on the right path and you have the right direction, and that you're making sure that every decision you make gets you to your ultimate goals. So nothing wrong with a second opinion, and I liken it to the fact that you have if you're sitting with a doctor one day and he diagnoses you with cancer and surgery is tomorrow, you have to have it. Even then, you probably want a second opinion.
Right.
So why is it so much different with your wealth? You have to make sure that the team you have in place is putting you towards the right place. You have to make sure that you're walking towards sunset in a way that is the best way for you and your family to achieve your goals.
Makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thanks
really
for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Jen.
And thank you for watching Success and Wealth.